Hi everyone, in this video we will see how to conduct a goodness of fit test on TI84 or TI84 plus. It is a goodness of fit test is a chi-square test that determines if the data with some unknown distribution fits any known or expected distribution. So for that reason you have two sets of values, one for the expected and then one with the observed data, the unknown distribution. So the first thing that you need to do is enter those data values into a list that would be under stat, edit, and you type in the list values. And then secondly, to conduct the test, go back to stat, tests, and chi-square tests are options C and D. So let's scroll down and see which one we need. So one of them says chi-square test and D is what we need, chi-square goodness of fit test. So highlight that, hit enter, and here you will populate the list names where your data is the observed and the expected. You would need degrees of freedom, and then you could either calculate or draw. So let's do an example with this. Let's go back to stat, edit, so we could type in our data values. So the example that we are using is this first one. We have a factory manager who needs to understand how many products are defective versus how many are produced. So the number of expected defects is listed in this given table. So you have these various categories and number of expected defects are given here. So this is your expected data values. And on the next slide for the same categories, so this says that the random sample was taken to determine the actual number of defects. So this is your actual data. So in this table, you have the observed data values given here as the number of defective. So we will enter both in the list. So let's enter the observed values 5, 7, 8, 9, and 11. Okay, so I did start it already, 5, 7, let's scroll down to 8, hit enter each time after entering a data value, 9, and 11. Okay, let's move over to the right. If you did not have an empty list, you would go up to the name of the list, by the up arrow, hit clear, enter, and that would clear up the list. So now let's go back to our table. The expected values are 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Let's enter those. 5, enter, 6, 7, 8, and 10. So the amount has to match. And now in order to conduct the test, so we go to stat, keep track of the list names where you entered your data. And in which order. Where was the observed? It was in list 1, and where was the expected, which was in list 2. Right, so we go to tests. We need to go down to option D. We could alternatively go from the top, bottom up. Chi-square goodness of fit. So my observed was in list 1. And let me just make sure my observed is the one I entered first, which was in list 1. Okay, so to get the right list name, so notice the list names are above the numbers. So you would hit second 1 to populate it with list 1. Enter on that, and expected is already on L2, which is good. Degrees of freedom is determined by, for chi-square goodness of fit test, number of categories or the groups that you have minus the 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minus 1, which would be 4. Come down to calculate and enter, and this will give you all the information that you need. Chi-square, test statistic 0.57, p-value 0.97, so very high p-value. CNTRB you could ignore. That basically tells you the contribution of each category towards that test statistic. So now you could go ahead and conduct your hypothesis testing based on the p-value or the test statistic. So that's how you conduct goodness of fit test on TI84+.